Chat, this is a picture of the victim. So this white kid here, a white guy, he's a cameraman.
He probably made that motherfucker immediately, and you know how the feds operate. You know, they just been going around interviewing everybody and going to get the surveillance, the shit you just got through reading. And that's why it's taking so long. And then, of course, I'm sure they tap the phones and trying to get some audio, but don't sound like they got none, because I'm sure you probably would have read it.
This looks like it's serious, man. I don't know how Shiesty gets out of this.
Every story we've told about this situation so far has come from the outside looking in. Surveillance footage, leaked documents, FBI statements, CNN investigations, anonymous sources. We've been piecing this together like a jigsaw puzzle. One grainy clip at a time, one rumor at a time, one theory at a time.
Final suspect has been arrested. We've been able to obtain video which shows the FBI at Pooh Shiesty's home the day he was arrested. Take a look at that video. This happened in Memphis. Federal authorities say Shiesty was the ringleader behind the attack on Gucci Mane here in Dallas. That incident happened back in January at a music studio located off Dallas Parkway. The DOJ says Gucci Mane and two others were allegedly kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint. They say 9 people were involved, including Pooh Shiesty's father and Big 30.
But today we're going inside because someone who was in that room, not watching on a screen, not reading about it on a blog, not analyzing footage from a security camera, someone who was physically present, standing feet away from Gucci Mane when everything went down, has decided to talk.
All this is happening, the guy that gave Pooh Shiesty the gun pulls out a phone and starts recording the crime. To make this even funnier, after Gucci Mane signs the contract to release Pooh Shiesty gives the contract to his father and asks him, "Is this adequate, Dad?" After looking at it, his father says, no, he needs to date it. As if not dating it would somehow make it void. Forget about the guns and the fact that the rest of his friends are being holed up in another room. No, bro, you better date this shit, motherfucker. Now, as Gucci Mane is being stuck out to sign this contract, Pooh Shiesty's friends that he came with, it looks like 5 or 6 of them, have the rest of Gucci Mane's security and entourage at gunpoint. One of Pooh Shiesty's people stands in front of the door so they cannot leave. So now, Gucci Mane and all of his associates are being held at gunpoint. Gucci Mane in the side room and his other people like in the lobby. As they're sitting there at gunpoint, Pooh Shiesty decides, fuck it. Let's take all their other shit too. The contract ain't enough. So they rob Gucci Mane of his wedding ring, cash, and jewelry. They also rob members of his entourage of their jewelry. If you're gonna rob someone of jewelry, you probably don't want it to be distinct so it can be traced back to you. Well, I guess Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Pooh Shiesty and his father and their gang, think it's a good idea to steal 1017 chains. 1017 is a record label that Gucci Mane owns and operates. Members of his entourage have these chains. So Gucci Mane and his people steal these chains. And the cherry on top of all of this, besides his friend recording their event, besides his dad saying to sign the fucking document and put the date, or his friend sticking up all the other individuals in the other room with CCTV, Pooh Shiesty does all of this with an ankle monitor on. I think I can unequivocally say that Pooh Shiesty is the stupidest criminal I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Gucci's cameraman, the man whose job it is to follow Gucci everywhere, to document everything, to be the invisible eye that captures the lifestyle, the business, the behind-the-scenes moments that feed the brand. This man has been with Gucci for years. He's seen everything, he's filmed everything, and he has never, not once, spoken publicly about what he's witnessed. Until now. What this man is describing is not what you think happened. It's not what the surveillance footage showed. It's not what the internet assumed. It's worse. It's more personal, it's more calculated, and it's more disturbing than any of us imagined. I need everyone to understand that this video is different from the others. This isn't speculation, this isn't theory. This is a first-hand account from a man who watched it happen with his own eyes, who heard every word, who felt the energy shift in that room in real time. First, let me explain who this person is and why his account matters. In the world of hip-hop, the cameraman is the most overlooked and underestimated person in the room. People think it's just a guy with the camera, just somebody holding a phone or a gimbal, recording content for Instagram and YouTube, background noise, furniture with a lens. But that's not what a personal cameraman is, not at Gucci's level. At Gucci's level, the cameraman is part of the inner circle. He's in the room for meetings that nobody else is allowed in. He's at dinners where business is discussed. He's on the bus, on the plane, in the studio, at the house. He sees the real Gucci, not the Instagram version, not the interview version, the actual human being behind the brand. This particular cameraman, and I'm not using his real name for obvious reasons, so I'll refer to him as Lens throughout this video, has been working with Gucci for multiple years. He was hired originally to shoot content for 1017's social media presence, but over time, his role expanded. He became a documentarian of sorts, capturing Gucci's daily life, life, his business operations, his interactions with artists on the label. And that last part is critical because Lenz didn't just film Gucci. He filmed Gucci with Shiesty. He filmed Gucci with Big 30. He filmed the meetings, the studio sessions, the moments where Gucci was mentoring these young artists, the moments where things were good, which means he also has the context that nobody else has. He knows what the relationship looked like before it fell apart. He knows the warning signs that everybody else missed. And he knows exactly how the night in question unfolded. Not from a ceiling-mounted camera 60 feet away, but from 5 feet away, with human eyes. Lenz says the trouble didn't start the night of the confrontation. It started the night before. According to him, Gucci received a phone call late around midnight that changed his entire mood. Lenz didn't hear the full conversation because Gucci stepped into another room to take it, but he saw Gucci's face before the call and after the call. And the difference, he says, was like watching a light switch off. Before the call, Gucci was relaxed. They'd had a good day. Studio session with a new artist. Business meetings that went well. Kesha had come by earlier with the baby. The vibe was family, comfort, normalcy. After the call, Gucci was silent. Not angry, not agitated, silent. Lenz says Gucci sat on the couch for a long time without saying a word, just staring at his phone, scrolling through something. Then he made a call of his own, short, maybe 2 minutes. And when he hung up, he looked at Lenz and said 4 words. Don't bring the camera. In all the years Lenz had worked with Gucci, he had never once been told not to bring the camera. The camera was the job. The camera was the whole point. For Gucci to say don't bring the camera meant that whatever was about to happen was not meant to be documented, not meant to be content, not meant to be seen. Lenz says that sentence scared him more than anything that happened the next night because it meant Gucci knew something was coming. He didn't know exactly what, but he knew it was bad enough to turn the cameras off. The next evening, Gucci told Lenz they were going to an event. Despite what he'd said the night before, Lenz brought a small camera anyway, not the full rig, just a compact setup that he could keep in his bag. He says he did this out of instinct. Years of documenting Gucci's life had trained him to always be ready, and something in his gut told him this was a night he might need to be ready for. When they arrived at the venue, Lenz says the energy was immediately off. Gucci's security detail was larger than usual. He normally rolls with 2, maybe 3 people. That night, there were 5, and they weren't the relaxed, standing in the background type of security. They were tight, close, alert, scanning. Gucci himself was dressed down, not the usual designer drip, understated, almost anonymous. Lenz says it was like Gucci was trying not to be noticed, which for a man who is 6'2" and one of the most recognizable people in Atlanta is nearly impossible. But the effort was there. They entered through a side door, not the main entrance. That was unusual. Gucci almost always uses the main entrance. It's part of the brand, part of the presence. You walk in the front door and people know you've arrived. Going through the side door says you don't want people to know you've arrived. Lenz says he asked one of the security guys what was going on. The response was short. Just stay close and keep your head on a swivel. That was it. No explanation, no context, just a warning dressed up as casual advice. Lenz describes the venue as a mid-sized lounge, not a club, not a restaurant, somewhere in between. VIP section in the back, bar area in the front, music playing but not loud. Maybe 40, 50 people total. The kind of place where people with money go to have conversations they don't want overheard in a louder environment. Gucci settled into the VIP section, ordered a drink, started talking to a few people, industry types, associates, nobody noteworthy. Lenz sat nearby with his bag, camera tucked away but accessible. He says he was watching Gucci's eyes, and Gucci's eyes were watching the door. Not casually, not the way you glance at an entrance when you're expecting a friend. Gucci was watching that door the way a person watches a door when they're expecting a threat. Steady, unblinking. Every time someone new walked in, Gucci's jaw would tighten for a half second before relaxing when he saw it wasn't who he was looking for. Lenz says this went on for about 45 minutes. 45 minutes of Gucci pretending to be relaxed while clearly being anything but, making small talk, smiling, laughing, but never, not for 1 second, taking his attention off that entrance. And then the door opened and Gucci's entire body changed. Lenz says he'll never forget the physical transformation he witnessed in that moment. Gucci didn't flinch, didn't tense up in an obvious way, but something shifted. His shoulders dropped slightly, his chin came up, his hand moved from the arm of the couch to his lap. It was subtle, the kind of thing you'd only notice if you'd spent years studying this man through a viewfinder. Lenz looked at the door, and there they were, Pooh Shiesty, Big 30, and 2 other people he didn't recognize. Lenz says the room didn't notice at first. Music was still playing, people were still talking, drinks were still flowing. Shiesty and Big 30 walked in, and to most most people in the venue, it was just 2 more guys coming through the door. But Lenz noticed something that the surveillance footage couldn't capture. The people who came in with Shiesty and Big 30, the 2 unidentified individuals, didn't stay with them. They split off. One went to the bar area and positioned himself near the front entrance. The other moved along the wall toward the back of the venue, near a hallway. They weren't there to party. They weren't there to socialize. They were establishing positions. And if you've ever seen a coordinated operation, military, law enforcement, or otherwise, you recognize that movement pattern immediately. It's a containment setup. You control the exits before you make your move. Lenz says he leaned over to one of Gucci's security guys and whispered, "Something's wrong." The security guy nodded. He'd already seen it. But Gucci didn't move, didn't signal his security, didn't get up. He just sat there, watching Shiesty walk toward the VIP section and waited. Lenz says there was something almost resigned about it, like Gucci had known this was coming, like he had accepted that this confrontation was going to happen and had decided to face it head on rather than avoid it. That, Lenz says, is the most Gucci Mane thing he has ever witnessed. A man who could have left, could have had his security create a barrier, could have avoided the entire encounter, but chose to sit there and let it come to him. This is the chapter that changes everything, because the surveillance footage showed us the physical confrontation, the pushing, the grabbing, the chaos, but it couldn't give us what Lenz is about to give us. The words. Lenz was approximately 8 feet from the VIP section when Shiesty approached Gucci, close enough to hear, close enough to see facial expressions, close enough to feel the temperature in the room drop. According to Lenz, Shiesty didn't start with aggression. He started with the question, a simple, direct question, spoken at a normal volume. And the question was, and Lenz says he will remember these words until the day he dies. "Where's our money, Gucci? And I want the real answer this time." Gucci, according to Lenz, didn't respond immediately. He took a sip of his drink, set it down, looked at Shiesty, and said, "Everything you're owed is accounted for. Talk to the lawyers." Lenz says that answer, "talk to the lawyers," was the match that lit the fuse, because Shiesty's face changed. The calm evaporated. His voice went low, not loud, low, which Lenz says was scarier. And he said something to the effect of, "We've been talking to lawyers for 8 months. The lawyers talk to your lawyers. Your lawyers talk to the label. The label says talk to accounting. Accounting says talk to lawyers. It's a circle, and the circle is designed to make sure we never get paid." Lenz says Gucci's response was measured, almost dismissive. He said, "That's how business works. You signed the contract. You agreed to the terms. I didn't hold a weapon to your head." And that, according to Lenz, is when Big 30 spoke for the first time. He had been standing slightly behind Shiesty, silent, arms crossed, and Big 30 said one sentence, just one, "Nah, but we can hold one of yours." The room didn't hear it. The music was loud enough to cover it, but Lenz heard it. Gucci heard it. Gucci security heard it. And in that moment, Lenz says, everybody understood that this conversation was over and something else was about to begin. What happened next is what the surveillance cameras captured, the physical confrontation. But Lenz's perspective adds details that the overhead angle couldn't show. He says Shiesty reached across the table not to grab something random. He reached for Gucci's phone, specifically, deliberately. He wanted Gucci's phone, and Lenz thinks he knows why. The phone had evidence on it, texts, voice memos, financial records, communication between Gucci and his accountants, his lawyers, his label managers. Shiesty didn't want jewelry. He didn't want cash. He wanted proof. Gucci's reaction, the shove that sent Shiesty backward, was instinctive. Nobody takes Gucci Mane's phone, reaches into his personal space like that. Gucci reacted the way any person would react when someone makes a grab at them. But Lenz says what happened next is the part that the surveillance footage got wrong, or rather, the part that the surveillance footage made look different than it was. When Big 30 grabbed Gucci from behind, Lenz says he didn't just bear hug him. He whispered something in Gucci's ear. Lenz couldn't hear what it was. The chaos was too loud at that point. Bottles crashing, people yelling. But Gucci's reaction to whatever Big 30 said was immediate. He stopped struggling completely. A man who had been fighting back a second earlier just stopped. Lenz says that moment haunts him because whatever Big 30 whispered made Gucci Mane, the most fearless man in Atlanta, go still. And in Lenz's years of being around Gucci, through every beef, every confrontation, every dangerous moment, he had never seen Gucci stop fighting. Something Big 30 said made him stop. And Lenz believes, though he admits he doesn't know for certain, that whatever was said involved Kesha. That Big 30 told Gucci something about his wife that made him understand the stakes had just escalated beyond a business dispute. That's when Gucci stopped fighting and started calculating. Now we get to the part of the story that connects Lenz's account to the second piece of surveillance footage, the hallway incident with Kesha Kaur. Lenz says that during the 60-second confrontation, confrontation in the main room, he lost track of Kesha. In the chaos, the shoving, the bottles, the scrambling, his attention was locked on Gucci. He didn't see Kesha leave the VIP area. He didn't see which direction she went. He didn't know she had gone into the hallway, but he heard something. After Shiesty and Big 30 began moving toward the exit, after the main confrontation was over, Lens heard a sound from the direction of the hallway. Not a scream, not a shout. He describes it as a sharp intake of breath, the kind of sound someone makes when they're startled, when fear hits them before they have time to process it. Lens says he moved toward the hallway, not to be a hero, his words, but because his instinct told him something was wrong. He got to the hallway entrance just in time to see the tail end of what the surveillance footage showed. Kesha against the wall, Shiesty walking away, the clutch bag on the floor. But Lynn saw one thing that the surveillance camera did not capture clearly. He says Kesha was crying, not sobbing, not hysterical, silent tears, the kind of tears that come from shock rather than sadness, the kind of tears that happen when your body reacts to something before your mind has caught up. And her hands were shaking. Even after Shiesty had left the hallway, even after the immediate threat was gone, her hands were shaking so badly that when Lens approached her and asked if she was okay, she couldn't hold her phone. She tried to pick it up from where she dropped it and couldn't grip it. He had to pick it up for her. Lens says he walked her back to Gucci, and when Gucci saw his wife's face, when he saw the tears and the trembling hands and the look in her eyes, Lens says something broke in Gucci that he had never seen break before. Not anger, something past anger, something quieter and more permanent. Lens says Gucci held Kesha's face in his hands, looked at her and said, "I'm going to fix this, all of it, I promise you." And Lens says that in that moment, he knew this was never going to end peacefully. Whatever came next, legal, financial, or otherwise, Gucci Mane was going to make sure that the people who did this to his wife paid for it. Not in the way the streets pay for things, in the way that a man with resources, patience, and an infinite memory makes people pay. Slowly, completely, and permanently. Now here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Remember when I said Lens brought his small camera in his bag, even though Gucci told him not to? Remember that detail from the beginning of this story? Lens didn't film the confrontation. He honored Gucci's request. The camera stayed in the bag during the main event, but after, in the hallway, in the aftermath, in the moments when Kesha was crying and Gucci was making promises, Lens says his instinct took over and he reached into the bag. He didn't pull the camera out fully. He didn't raise it to his eye. He cracked the bag open and hit record with the camera still inside, pointed upward at an angle. The footage, he says, is mostly ceiling and ambient noise, but portions of it capture audio, clear audio, of Gucci speaking to a security team in the minutes after the incident. Lens says he has not released this footage. He has not given it to CNN. He has not given it to the FBI. He has not given it to anyone. He has it. It's in his possession, and he is holding on to it because he hasn't decided what to do with it yet. But he described what's on it, and what he described is Gucci, in a controlled and deliberate voice, giving his security team specific instructions. Not instructions for that night, instructions for what comes next. A plan, a sequence of steps, legal steps, financial steps, and steps that Lens says he cannot describe in detail because they involve actions that have not yet been taken. Lens says Gucci was not reacting in those moments. He was executing, like a man who had already thought through every scenario and was simply activating the one that matched the situation. There was no hesitation, no emotion, just precision. And Lens says that recording, those few minutes of audio, is more powerful than every piece of surveillance footage combined. Because the surveillance footage shows what happened, the audio shows what's coming. The last thing I asked Lens, the last question, the one I'd been saving, was simple. Why now? After years of silence, after years of being the invisible man in the room, after years of seeing everything and saying nothing, why talk now? His answer was not what I expected. He didn't say it was for money. He didn't say it was for clout. He didn't say it was because he was angry at Gucci or sympathetic to Shiesty or trying to insert himself into the narrative. He said he's talking because he's scared. Scared because he was in that room. Scared because he saw things that make him a witness. Scared because the FBI has already contacted him twice requesting an interview. Scared because people connected to Shiesty's camp have also reached out to him. Not threatening, not yet, but checking in a way that didn't feel like friendship. Scared because he's sitting on footage that multiple parties would very much like to either obtain or destroy. Lynn says he's caught in the middle of something that is far bigger than rap music. He's a civilian, a creative professional who got pulled into a situation involving federal fugitives, international manhunts, institutional corruption, and the kind of people who make problems disappear. He says he went public through this video, through this channel, because he believes that visibility is his only protection. That as long as nobody knows what he knows, he's a loose end. But if the world knows what he knows, eliminating him becomes counterproductive. You can't silence a story that's already been told. And so he told it, all of it. The phone call, the side entrance, the positions by the exits, the words that the cameras couldn't hear, the whisper that made Gucci stop fighting, Kesha's trembling hands, the footage in the bag, all of it. Not for fame, not for money, for survival. And honestly, after hearing everything he said, I can't blame him. For weeks, we've been watching this story unfold through screens, through surveillance footage and FBI statements and CNN investigations. We've been spectators, observers, analysts sitting at our keyboards trying to figure out what happened in that room. And now we know, not from a camera mounted on a ceiling, not from a government press release, from a human being who was standing right there, who heard the words, who saw the faces, who watched the most dangerous moment in modern hip-hop history happen in real time from 5 feet away. Pooh Shiesty wanted money, Big 30 wanted leverage, Gucci wanted to stand his ground, and Kesha got caught in the middle of all of it. A woman whose only crime was being in the wrong hallway at the wrong time, married to the wrong man in the wrong business. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, a cameraman with a bag and an instinct hit record. And now he's sitting on footage that could change everything again. The question isn't whether that footage will come out. It will. Everything comes out eventually. The question is, who gets it first? The FBI, CNN, Gucci's lawyers, Shiesty's people. Someone is going to obtain that recording. And when they do, the next chapter of this story begins. We'll be here when it does.